Xi Jinping has been re-elected General Secretary of the CPC Central Committee. In our search for the making of Xi Jinping, we followed in his footsteps, from Shanxi to Hebei, Fujian, Jiujiang and Shanghai. This is Xinhua Special, and I'm Helen Bentley. This is a yaodong. It's a type of house that's built into the hillside, made from compacted earth and bricks, and very common in this area of China. And this yaodong is where Xi Jinping first stayed when he came to live in this village. Beginning in 1962, his father, Xi Jinping, a communist revolutionary, was the target of a series of accusations. A few years later, when Xi was 15, he left home to be re-educated in the countryside like tens of millions of his peers. In 1974, aged 20, he joined the CPC, and not long after, he was voted village party chief. And it was in this role that he set about implementing a series of social initiatives, including a sewing workshop where women would make clothes for their fellow villagers. And also there was a consignment store where they could buy groceries but also sell their own products. And there was a mill that had equipment that was donated by Xi that could be used by everyone. Xi also built this, which is a methane tank, and it helped to provide the villagers with gas for their cookers and their lighting. Before coming to Shanxi, soft-handed Xi had barely carried anything heavier than his books. But within a few short years, he was carrying up to 100 kilograms of wheat over one shoulder along rough mountain roads. The Shanxi years were a period of transformation for Xi, from urban, privileged teenage boy to grown-up farming man, from ordinary CPC member to an elected CPC village chief. These experiences helped to mould him into the statesman that he is today. The roots of Xi's philosophy are here. Xi came here in 1982, just after the reform and opening up period. He was 28 years old. Xi Jinping's political career started in earnest here, in the county of Jiujiang in Hebei province. This is Rongmansion Park. It was built in the 1980s as a location for a TV drama. And since then, over 170 films and TV shows have been filmed here. Xi had always been a lover of the arts and literature. So in 1983, when he heard the producers of A Dream of a Red Mansion were looking for locations, he realised that this production could bring more than just a film crew. It would bring tourists. But here comes the kicker. The whole project was valued at 3.5 million yuan, which is a huge amount of money, especially when you take into consideration that the annual revenue for the whole of the county was only 11 million yuan. Added to that, officials argued that the most popular tourist attraction at the time only cost 1 jiao to get into, and at that rate it would mean the county would have to spend 100 years to recoup their costs. But Xi managed to persuade these officials, and added to investment from local businesses, construction soon began. And the park? It was a huge success, making 17 million yuan in its very first year. The management said making profits was as easy as raking in fallen leaves. This was just one of many projects initiated by Xi over the 3.5 years that would revitalise this sleepy backwater with a much-needed injection of creativity and talent. Xi has spoken favourably of Jiujiang on various occasions, praising its culture, history and especially its hard-working people. The Jiujiang years were characterised by creativity, vision and reform. And these are notions that Xi has taken with him and developed wherever he goes. Xi Jinping arrived in Fujian aged 32, and considering he lived here for 17 years, it will come as no surprise that he calls the years here the prime of his life. After 3 years in Xiamen as Vice City Mayor, Xi came here to the prefecture of Ningde, where he took up a position of party chief. Just behind me is his office. Within 3 months of arriving in the prefecture, Xi had visited all 9 of its counties, and one area under its jurisdiction is where I am now, Shadang. But when Xi came here, it had no electricity, no tap water, no paved roads, no fiscal revenue. And the government office, if you can call it that, was run out of a cowshed. It took Xi absolutely hours to get here, on a journey that he said was extremely arduous, but also unforgettable. 30 years on, however, and the difference is night and day. The area has roads, electricity, commercial farming and tourists, and in addition, its per capita income has increased by over 50-fold. Xi took a no-empty talk approach to the leadership in Ningbo. Years later, this attitude remains a guiding principle for the president, and he has often said that empty talk leads a country astray. Hard work sees a nation prosper. Xi was appointed party chief of Jiujiang in 2002. Jiujiang was already one of the richest provinces in China, but this wouldn't make leading it any easier. In fact, this is something that Xi himself acknowledged when he said that the higher the mountain, the harder it is to climb. The faster the car, the harder it is to drive. In just over a year, he visited all 90 counties, and this extensive research trip, he said, really hit it home that the province had to transform its inefficient growth pattern. Starting in 2003, all the limestone mines and cement factories were decommissioned in Jiujiang. While this was great news for the environment, it did have a human cost. Half of the village lost their jobs. In August of 2005, Xi Jinping visited Jiujiang. He said the old development pattern that they had been on for so long was unsustainable. It was here that Xi Jinping first put forward the notion that clear waters and lush mountains are as valuable as gold and silver. Every year, over 300,000 tourists come here to this sea of bamboo, their visits generating 5 times as much as the mines once did. During Xi's tenure in Jiujiang, the province was one of the cleanest and safest in the whole of China. In 2007, after 5 years in Jiujiang, Xi would be appointed party chief of Shanghai, and this would be his final stop before rising to the central leadership. Xi Jinping once said that managing a big city was a bit like embroidery. You have to thread your needle, make your neat little stitches, and think of the overall pattern. Both require meticulous planning and implementation. His career spanned an impoverished revolutionary base, a culturally rich town, the testing ground for China's opening up and reform and developed provinces. But Xi was only in Shanghai for 7 months. What did he take from his time here? Xi often calls on the party to stay true to the mission. But what is this mission? Perhaps the answer can be found in the winding streets of Shanghai. So let's look beyond this modern skyline and see what lies beneath the shadows in the winding streets. This grey brick building in downtown Shanghai in the old French concession was the location of the first ever National Congress of the Communist Party of China. And it was at that Congress, in this very room, that a group of representatives established a party that would go on to be the largest ruling party in the world. On March 30th, 2007, Xi chose this grey building to make his debut as party secretary of Shanghai. After looking through the exhibits and learning more about that very first party congress, Xi said this great journey of the party, from its initial 13 Congress representatives and 53 party members, made him more firmly realise its glorious mission and heavy responsibility. From the rural northwest of China to its coastal south, Xi has developed a deep understanding of his country and its people. From a city boy sent to the countryside to the leader of the world's second largest economy, a common thread has emerged in his political career, and that is his commitment to the people. See you next time.